Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick Savage, author, artist, and your podcast host tonight for Drinking with Authors, sponsored by Four Horsemen Publications. And as always, we have another wonderful author with us this evening, Ann Shepard. And tell us about your, I'm not even going to pretend to make up trope words. I want you to tell us about your series, both your series and your books. Give us a lowdown.
Okay. Well, I have two series that I write for Four Horsemen Publications. One is a series of two satiric romantic comedies, I would call them. So the first was The War Council, which is about a woman who wants to make love logical. So she creates a paramilitary relationship counseling service that you can hire to make your relationship work the way you'd like to, kind of like if you could hire the team from Mission Impossible to work with you on your relationships. And then the second book in that series, right here, was called The Italy Affair. And in that, it takes place on a University Alumni Association trip to Italy. So, and then hijinks abound in the lovely country of Italy. So these are kind of, this was the sequel to The War Council and kind of sums up a lot of the stories that started in The War Council. They're both told in alternate first person. So you have different characters kind of telling their viewpoint of how things went down in the stories. So it's kind of fun to write in these very different voices, each telling their stories. The very first one starts with Maggie, who's a college professor, which is why it's called the University Chronicles series, kind of saying, it's not that I need to justify myself. And pretty much both books are everyone justifying why they did what they did. So there's a lot of humor and again, satire of kind of romance and life and love and all of those things.
All right. Now I do have a question in mind, but I know you
Sure.
have another series. You have another series, so I want you to tell me about that. But I have a question about the War Council. So
okay, sure.
Tell us about the other series.
The second series is a series of, I call them travel mysteries because they are murder mysteries, but the protagonist is a travel writer. And I was a travel writer and an editor of a travel industry magazine for 20 years. So they're based on a lot of my experiences. So essentially it's a former investigative reporter who falls into travel writing, which is kind of what happened to me. And they all begin and end in Carmel, California, which is one of my favorite places in the world. So as always, you want to set your books in some place that you love. And so she starts writing for a magazine called Carmel Today. So her first press trip, which is what they go on in the travel industry, is to Maui. So the very first book is called Destination Maui. And so it kind of talks about how she fell into it. And then she goes off on this trip to Maui. And it kind of shows, in the travel industry, there are these things called press trips, or they call them FAM trips, familiarization trips, which is where a group of writers or meeting planners or travel agents are brought to a place and they show it off so that you'll talk about it. Okay. So you're thrown together with people you don't know, 16 hours a day, 4 days in a row of lots of whining and dining, but it's just a lot. And every once in a while, you come across someone that is just really obnoxious. So in this book, there is one character that everybody loathes, just absolutely hates. And naturally, he drops dead of mysterious circumstances, and they have to figure out how to solve the mystery. The second book is Destination Monterey, which takes place kind of around Sam's hometown of the Monterey Peninsula, which is where Carmel is located. She's asked to write a story kind of highlighting the towns in that area. As the area hosts a big golf event every year, a big PGA event at Pebble Beach. And so it's just kind of something that they would put in the magazine to highlight that. So she ends up uncovering a cold case in her hometown and having to solve that. So then the third book is Destination Lake Tahoe. And this one takes place in winter at an old restored lodge in the mountains. And naturally a blizzard hits and people start disappearing and fun things happen. And then the one that is the latest one, which will be coming out February 28th to 2026 is Destination New York City. So I just got my author's copy so that I can show it to you here. And this one takes place at a conference. It's called the Business of Luxury Conference, and it's held at one of those great old luxury historic hotels that New York City is known for. And the woman who's running the conference is found drowned in the bathtub in her luxury suite. And first, everyone thinks it's an accident, but Samantha Powers, who's the protagonist of the books, kind of thinks maybe there's more involved. Also, she's in a locked room. So how could anyone have gotten in? And so she has to uncover that mystery. So those are the books so far.
No, that is some stories you have laid out and stuff. And I always love mystery, crime thrillers. Like, I'm a big fan of the TV show, and it's since become fans of the books, Richard Castle books based off the TV show and stuff. So hearing your books, they might be added to my to be read pile very soon, because I am looking to add to it. So I actually really like that.
Mysteries are great. And as a travel writer, I used to love when I would go and visit a place, I would find an independent bookstore and say, what do you have set here? Especially if it's a mystery. And then I would read them on the plane home, because mysteries are a lot about place, even if they're not travel mysteries. You know, the whoever it is solving the mystery, whether it's a detective or an amateur, is going from place to place to place and talking to the people to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So when you're traveling, it's a great thing to do, to pick up a mystery set there, because it teaches you about the inner workings too of the various areas. So it's a fun thing. I've always enjoyed doing that myself.
You had said something when you were talking about the first book, where you the War Council, where it's kind of, you can hire a team to make the relationship work the way you want them to work. Did this spawn from personal desire in some current or previous relation? Like, is there an ex out there somewhere that has experienced some sort of like military style interjection? Okay.
I mean, a little bit. It was a little based on when I was, back when I was in my 20s and had my first like major breakup. And those are just kind of the most shattering things, because in my mind, it didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense, right? We were so good, and then he had to move away and didn't ask me to go with him. And I thought, why is this happening? What's going on here? It's not logical. And that was kind of the impetus for it. It's like, how do you make it logical? But one of the themes is that love isn't logical. And that's kind of what's so wonderful about it. As much as we would love to make it more logical, it's just, it's not going to happen. So that's part of it. Human beings are involved before, so.
No, love is very illogical. And I think that's what makes love stories so great and timeless, is the illogicalness of it. I forgot to ask, are you drinking? And if so, what are you drinking today with us?
I am. So the next Destination Murder Mystery, the one I am writing right now, is going to take place in Santa Barbara, California, in and around part of it is the wine industry in California. So, which is great. If anyone's seen Sideways, you know that Santa Ynez Valley, which is kind of where a lot of this is set. So I am drinking a lovely Sauvignon Blanc from the Santa Ynez Valley. So
you mentioned Sideways and are drinking a white wine.
I know. Philistine. I'm a Philistine. So yes, I'm also a middle-aged white woman. I like my white wine. Let's face it.
No, that is okay. I am more of a red wine drinker. If I'm drinking a white wine, Sauvignon Blanc is actually a good one to go with.
Yes. Yes.
Not a Chardonnay fan whatsoever. Definitely don't like Moscatos, but Sauvignon Blancs are pretty good.
They're way too sweet. I tend to like the drier wines. I love a good sparkling rosé, especially if it's a good dry sparkling rosé, is a good one. Problem with Chardonnays is they kind of run the gamut. They can be wonderful, but there's just a lot of not great ones out there. It's just, and that's part of the problem, is that, there's a lot of when I was at the travel magazine, I got to visit a lot of wine country regions and meet a lot of winemakers, and they're wonderful to talk to, because they're all so passionate about what they do and are very, direct in like what they want and what they like and how they want to do it. And so it's kind of fun to now use a lot of these stories in this particular book, but yeah.
So, like, no. And this actually leads me into a question because some writers, when they write, will listen to music and others will drink. And authors famously in the past have been raging alcoholics. And so, how deep into alcoholism and depression do you want to get while writing this next book, since you are now drinking wine while you write? Or is it going to be a little more casual and lighthearted than some of these?
It's a little more casual and lighthearted, yes. Yeah. And what's funny, in the New York book, I've even been visiting a bunch of wine tasting rooms, and it's like, no, you can't go in by yourself and just why, it's not fun. So I'd be like, hi, tell me about your wines, I'll walk out. But the New York book, actually martinis play a big part, and because the woman who dies in the bathtub has a very specific martini that she likes, and very specific brand and how it's done. And one of the reasons Sam knows that maybe it wasn't an accidental death is it's the wrong vodka bottle sitting next to the tub. So it's like she would never have been.
You can't tell us the martini without giving away some of the book, then, can you?
Well, I can tell you, no, because at the very beginning, she likes a Belvedere, dry Belvedere, straight up, 3 olives. Take one before you drink to give you a base. I mean, the woman is very particular.
that is a very particular. Yeah. Like, I love like old fashions and Manhattans and stuff, and my bourbons, and like I'm very particular, specific, anal retentive, whatever you want to say about my drinking, because I don't drink a lot. So when I do, I want it to be something I enjoy.
Right.
And speaking of which, tonight I am not drinking. I have a migraine, so I'm just doing some whiskey puer tea, but it's got the whiskey flavoring. So I figure that's a nice cheat since I have a migraine. But I forgot to say it earlier when you said yours, because I wanted to start talking about alcoholism and Sideways and Paul Giamatti. I actually saw that movie in theaters, and unfortunately, it was right around that time, right before the movie came out, I had started getting into Pinot Noirs. So then the movie comes out, and I was like, all right, bad time to start getting into Pinots, because everyone's
like, am I that guy?
Yeah, from the movie. But it did get me more into Pinots and stuff. But my favorite red wines are actually like Petite Syrahs, which, if you've ever had them, are really good if you like your full-bodied dry wines. But nonetheless, I sidetracked. And now I love martinis and stuff. This is what happens when you have ADD. But no, you have to drink what you like. So there's nothing wrong with knowing that you're going to be Belvedere, straight up, 3 olives, eat one before. And everything like that.
And I personally am not a big martini person, but I took a bunch of trips to New York, and what I loved was I would ask different places, what is your signature martini, because everybody has their signature martini. Yes. And my favorite answer was, one of the places I love is the Upstairs Bar at Sardi's. And I asked that bartender, I'm like, so is there a specific signature Sardi's martini? And he said, no, it's that we know how to make a proper martini, which I just loved. So perfect.
Pretentious as all hell, but at the same time, it was so nailed it on the head. Yeah.
So that line had to go in the book, definitely.
I think that's very great. Like, no, we don't have a signature. We just make good martinis.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he had to say it all snooty. Like,
exactly.
The way you made him sound to me right there was like, Abe Froman's Sausage King of Chicago, like the Nancy Dave from Ferris Bueller. Like, that's what I'm picturing, just tending bar.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure that actor loves that people still reference that one role of his.
Yeah.
There was a place in Chicago that had a signature martini that was a cucumber martini.
Oh, interesting.
It sounds weird, but I was like, I'm going to try it. At the time, I drink a lot. So I was like, it's alcohol. I'm going to drink it. And I could walk home from there, because it was like 2 blocks from where I lived in Logan Square. So it was definitely walkable or even stumbleable. But instead of like rimming the glass with salt, they rimmed it with celery salt. And it had a cucumber vodka and cucumber juice and something else in there, like elderflower liqueur or something like that. And it was honestly one of the best martinis I ever had.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you have to like cucumbers, because it was literally like eating a fresh cucumber that has been juiced, and you get drunk off it.
Yeah. Well, and I think I may be wrong about this, but once I was meeting with the tourism people from Scotland, and I think with Hendrick's, their gin and tonics, they use a cucumber. Isn't that right? Instead of,
They
I
still
forget.
use juniper because and I know this because I used to bartend and I taught the bar classes. All gins have to be made with juniper. It's what makes gin a gin.
Right.
However, Hendrick's is a cucumber infused vodka by standard.
Yeah.
Or not vodka, cucumber infused gin by standard. Like you have certain vodkas that are like, oh, this is our Stoli Citron and our Stoli Orange and our Stoli this or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
A vodka is just a potato based, except when it
Right.
comes to Ciroc, which is grape based,
Right.
but whatever. Potato based is your juniper base is your gin, and Hendrick's uses cucumbers in there to give it an extra flavor. And Hendrick's is actually a really, really good gin if you
Well,
ever
and I
want
think
to try.
that is kind of one of the things too that I again learned by interviewing a lot of the bartenders, because so many people these days they really just want the martini glass. As someone said, they really just want a shot of vodka in a martini glass, you know, and
Yeah.
that because vodka has very little flavor or anything, you know, and so it's just that's really all they want. Whereas the true martini really should be the gin, and it should be just the whiff of the vermouth, and it should be either the lemon peel or, you know, and so it's like it was really interesting learning. But again, the same guy dripping with condescension was like, you know, really people just want a thing of vodka in a, you know, in a martini glass. That's, you know, they're like, yeah, I just don't even really want the vermouth. I'm like, well, then you just want a shot of vodka. That's all you want, you know. It's like, you know,
a proper martini has vermouth in it, whether sweet or dry, depends on if you
exactly.
order a sweet or dry martini.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if they're like, oh, I just want it extra dry. Extra dry doesn't mean extra dry vermouth. It literally means like no vermouth.
Yeah.
So then you're just getting your
like
vodka.
blow on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, your vodka with some garnish. Like
exactly.
you just want a foo-foo glass. Don't get me wrong, I love my
Exactly.
martini
Exactly.
glasses. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
Yes.
a good chocolate martini, which obviously has no vermouth. Like there's many different recipes, but my favorite
Yeah.
was Absolute Vanilla and Godiva Dark and Godiva White, and that was it. And
Yeah.
like I had two of these things, and I was knocked on my ass from it. But it was such a good martini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like now my liver is like recovering, and it's happy I don't drink like I used to. But back in the day, I was like, I drank a little more than I wanted to admit to, but not as much as people thought I did, because of some medical issues where it would affect me. You know what I'm saying? So it was always like, oh yeah, I only had like 3 or 4 drinks. Why does it seem like you had 10? Because I'm special.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little different.
Yeah. My problem is I can really just usually only just have 1 or maybe 2 because I just get sleepy. So I'm not fun. It's not fun. So I've never had an issue because it's like, yeah, it's not exciting to me. So, you know.
But on the same note, if you ever have a bout of insomnia, you know, you can just have a drink and go to sleep.
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
But in writing, because I know before we started, we were chatting a little bit, and you mentioned you like to write in first person present tense. Why?
No, past tense.
Past tense, first person past tense. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well then 2 questions. Why do you enjoy first person? And it's not like there's no right or wrong. I'm not trying to get you in an aha moment or gotcha moment. And why past over present?
Again, well, I love conversational style. I love dialogue. I love writing dialogue. I love characters. I like kind of writing in from the point of view of the character. It makes it a fun way. For one, you can kind of get away with saying a lot of things that I can't say as an author, but I can say as that character. You know what I mean? I can throw in there kind of my ways of looking at the world, but it's like, well, no, I didn't say that. Maggie said that, or Sam said that. And past, because I think, you know, it's about recollection. This is what I recall happening, you know, right? And so they're telling the story. You know, a friend of my mom's once said that my books feel like I'm sitting across from you chatting and having a nice chat over maybe a glass of wine and telling you this story. And so that's kind of how I enjoy writing. And I love writing dialogue, and so the books this way are pretty much all dialogue because they're told from that character's point of view.
So even then the narrative portion of the book is really just the character talking to the reader in that sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what happened, and let me tell you why. You know, yeah.
But you're still speaking in first person, even though it's past tense. You're not ever referencing the reader as like you're not actually acknowledging the reader, though, are you? Okay.
No.
I've seen writers do that. It's very strange to read.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally she has like thoughts, and those might be in present tense, but they're separated, they're in italics, and it's like a thought in the moment as I'm telling this story, but otherwise, yeah.
No, definitely understand. Um, I've been asking this a lot. Do you do you prefer to plot, or do you prefer to just write and hope it makes sense? Are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm one of those hybrids. I'm a plantser. I always know kind of the beginning and the end and just have to figure out my way there. And a lot of times because especially with the travel mysteries, they're her trips and something happens on the trip and then it has to be solved. So I can kind of chart out what her trip looks like and then kind of add in what needs to happen, and then I kind of let myself go. But I usually know how I want it to begin and where I need to get her to go, and then I just can take some side routes along the way as I go.
Okay, so then since you have the beginning and the end and you kind of fill in the middle as you're writing, have you ever written a character that has surprised you in some way, like either became far more involved in a series or the book than they were meant to be, or just someone you fell in love with that was meant to be throwaway, or anything like that with like surprise characters?
Yeah, one of them, I mean, with the mysteries in the very first book, so she goes to Maui. She's actually the last person to see the person who died alive. So she ends up spending a lot of time with the Maui detective assigned to the case. And I kind of thought it would be a cute little one-off that they have this attraction to each other, and so many people just fell in love with the detective. This Roger Kai is his name, that he's now in every book. I mean, he has continued a relationship with Sam because the connection that I created for them was such that he had to continue. So yeah, so definitely I've had those characters. And a lot of times, yeah, the small ones that you just kind of throw in, and then they end up being so fun to write that you're like, oh, I need to give them more to do. Yeah, because that's really fun.
Is there a character or scene or chapter or anything like that that you absolutely loved, but just didn't work, and you had to leave out, and you are still either looking to fit it in somewhere that fits, or just that you just really were like, oh, I didn't want to get rid of that? Like, is there anything that sticks out in your mind like that?
Nothing comes to mind at the moment. Keep pondering that. If it comes
No,
up,
that's okay. Because I know we all like have stuff that we've written, whether it's like a couple sentences or a page and a half or whatever, that we're just like, oh, that was crap, or that doesn't work, and you get rid of it and it's forgettable
yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense. But I know, like had you deleted Sam, you'd be upset about that,
right,
because you're,
right, yeah.
yeah. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, usually what I do with that is I have just a separate document and I cut and paste it over into that document. And sometimes I'll go back and keep seeing, and usually I'll either maybe be able to use just part of it in some form and find a place for it, or you just kind of realize, yeah, you don't need it. It's never stayed with me. Like, oh man, wish I could have gotten that in there.
No, I
Yeah.
definitely understand that. When you're writing, because we all sit down and write, do you have, outside of the drinks you're doing for the book, do you have a ritual, like an incense that you burn, or a CD that you pop on, or anything like that, or is it just sit down and write?
I pretty much just sit. I'm not usually drinking a glass of wine.
It's a whole
Um,
bottle. I understand.
it's
Yeah.
just, I get a lot done first thing in the morning. So it's like, yeah, the coffee, open the computer, kind of let it flow out. What I like to do, one of the things I've learned, especially the more books I've done, is that it's important for me sometimes to get out of town, and just live in the world of the book for 2 or 3 days. And so I'll rent a place, and the nice thing is then I kind of have the little laptop with me and have it even sitting in the bed. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, if you think of something, you can just jump up, open it up, and type it in. So that's where I get the most done, is if I can take myself away, for a couple days. And because it takes a while, as you know, I mean, to get into the world of the book again. And so
Yes.
sometimes if you're only doing it in short increments every day, it doesn't really flow. And then you take yourself out and go back in, and then the characters start telling you what to do and what I need to do next and what I need to describe and what I need the conversations that they need to have. They kind of flow a lot easier if I take myself out of my regular environment. Yeah.
No, and I definitely understand that. Like there are times when I'm wanting to write and I'll have to go to like one of the Disney resorts because I live around here and there's literally nowhere else to go besides that. And like it's Disney and Universal down here. There's nothing else. So we'll go, I'll go somewhere and write, and my wife will come with and she'll be editing books or whatever off on the side, doing her thing. And it's nice. But like you say, go out in the world of your book and live in it. And I tell writers all the time, you can't hide in your room all day long and watch TV and read books and then write. Now, I understand that as a writer, you have to read.
Right.
But if you're not living life and you're not experiencing life, all you're doing is regurgitating your favorite parts of the books that are stewing in your unconscious or subconscious, whatever, and then rewriting them with your own flavor. And you have to get out there and live a little. And I'm not talking you have to do stupid Ferris Bueller style stuff, or you know what I'm saying, like go sleep around with a bunch of random people if you're trying to write an erotica. But like you have to get out there and live life, even if it's just to people watch, to see how life interacts and stuff. So it's definitely I'm glad that you said that, like you like to get out there and go in your own world, because a lot of people look at me when I say that like I'm got like 3 heads or something, and I'm like, it's just, you can't write without experience of some sort.
Yeah. And especially with the travel mysteries, I want to make sure that they're as accurate as possible too. So like for this book, I live luckily Santa Barbara's, New York was hard, right? But I went 4 times really over the year that it took me to write the book. And I just walking the streets, I would come up with ideas. And also I had to figure out, okay, so I've created this. What I do with all of these is I create like a fictional hotel with it that's based on real hotels, but but then it's like, okay, I mean, for like the New York book, it's like, where do people throw out the trash from these hotels? I mean, things like that. It's like, is there an alley? Is there, and so I'm like walking these luxury hotels and I'm like peeking in the back and like, how would you sneak into one of these hotels? What could you do for that? Or what is this from this? So just walking around the city, I would get so many, what is the brownstone that she's staying with at first? And what does that look like? And I would find these blocks and I'm like, oh, this is a perfect place. So this book and Santa Barbara, I've been coming up and just walking around the downtown, or going up to the Santa Ynez Valley and walking through some of the wine country region and just checking it out. And then he's like, oh, I could use that. Oh, and this looks good for that. So getting out into the world definitely helps. Even if it's fiction, it's still, you want it to ring true and you want it to be accurate to whatever you're writing. So
no, and that's a lot of people don't. I've not a lot. I have met with some authors who don't care about the authenticity, and I'm like, you don't have to write a town step by step, or step for step. You know what I'm saying? Like you can make a fictional building like you do within the town, or like other authors do a kind of amalgamation of like these 3 suburbs, or whatever outside, and fictionalize that version of Chicago. Like there's a TV show called The Mentalist that was on from 2015.
I love that show. Yeah,
2007, 2015. And my wife being from Central Valley, California, there's one of the episodes where they're like, they have to go from Sacramento to Colorado and make it in like 4 hours. And my wife was like, that is not possible. But then I was actually lucky enough to read the pitch for the show. And a lot of pitches and a lot of Bibles are like pages and pages and pages. The pitch for The Mentalist was literally a page. And it was, here's the idea of a guy who's a pretend psychic who really is just good at reading the scene and reading people. And it's like, it's a procedural. This will happen, this will happen, this will happen. And it even says takes place in a fictionalized California. Reason being is it allows for quicker travel that would otherwise not be possible. So in a fictionalized California, you can travel from Sacramento to Colorado in 4 hours. In real life, you're getting to Reno.
Exactly. Barely. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Like where my wife's parents lived in California, and then where they were from Reno was like 4.5 hours. And that was if you're going a little faster than you should.
Right.
You ain't
Well,
making it to
people
Colorado.
and being I'm a fourth generation Californian, and so many people have no real concept how big the state is. They'll be like,
Huge.
yeah, I'm coming to visit my friend in San Diego. Should we come up to visit? I'm like, okay, that's a 3-hour drive. So we're not having lunch. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we'd love to see you, but you know, or yeah. So it's kind of amazing because it's huge. I mean, and what's amazing to me is there's whole swaths where, you know, as populated as the state is, you know, if you drive from like LA to Death Valley, you'll spend 3 whole hours where you will not see another soul on the road.
Oh, yeah.
All. You know, I mean, there's whole swaths where there's just nothing, you know,
I mean,
which is still amazing to me.
If you look at a map, obviously the length of the state top to bottom is where the expanse is, but even the width isn't isn't something to scoff at.
Yeah.
And people from other countries will come here, and I'm not saying anything bad about anyone who lives in another country, but I've talked, because I used to serve tables, and I'll talk with people from like England, and they'd be like, when I was living in Chicago, they're like, oh, we want to go to, you know, wherever. And that was my horrible English accent. And I'm like, you can't just hop on a train and go there. Like you can go from top to the bottom of England in 7 hours.
Right.
It takes 8 hours to drive from the top to the bottom of Illinois.
Right.
It takes 22 and a half hours to drive from the top to the bottom of California. And that's if you're not taking the one.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's insane how big our country is, and how people are just like, they have no concept of the length. I mean, you could drive across the width of Florida in 4 hours if, you know, traffic is bad, I think, because from where I am to the coast is 2.5. So about 4.5 hours you can drive across the width of it. But the length is about a 13-hour drive if you go top to bottom. If you're not going through the panhandle, you know, just top to the bottom, not going through the keys. But it's a thing. So to be able to write an area and fictionalize it to work within the book, because again, we're storytellers. You have to write something that's going to be a good story. And sometimes that means taking a few liberties with what you're writing, you know, a fictionalized version of whatever hotel is sticking in my head that I can't think of the name of right now in New York, you know, and doing stuff like that. So it definitely works. We try and keep the show at about 30 minutes, but I have to ask you a question before we start to wrap things up and before you get to do some shameless self-promotion. If a budding writer was to come to you and ask you for advice, what advice would you give a wannabe or first-time writer?
Just write.
Just write.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things, after spending 20 years putting out a monthly magazine, we wrote a lot of words on a daily basis. And I think a lot of writing is, I mean, and you could have great ideas, but it's practice in a lot of ways. It's just doing it over and over and over and over and over again, you know, and the more you get used to putting what's in here on the page, the easier it becomes. And then that's how you get that flow going. And so I think that the other one is, and it's a piece of advice that someone gave me and that I love to pass along, because it's that first draft is hard. It's hard. It is, but rewriting is so fun. So get that first draft out, get it out, and then you can go back and you can fix it and play with it and have fun with the characters and do the dialogue and add the fun little things. But spitting out, it's like, and just know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's just going to feel like, ugh, you know. So I guess those would be my 2 pieces of advice, you know.
Just write and then rewrite it.
And then rewrite, exactly. Just do it and then get in and again have fun. As I mean, it was good for me to have been an editor as well as a writer, because I got good at fixing other people's stuff and moving it around. It's like, this works better like this and this looks better like this, but also then being able to do that to my own and knowing how fun that can be. You know, it's like, it's great to get that story out, but you can really have the fun during the rewriting process, because that's when you get to throw in the little tidbits or create the funny dialogue, or, you know, get it all in there, and it makes it a lot more fun.
I like that. I actually had a friend who was working with me on screenplays, and because I write books, I'm very much do the dialogue, you know, when you're writing, because the dialogue in a book, it can be so important. Whereas on a screenplay or a television show, it can be written down, go through 3 sets of, edits, and then on
Yeah.
set, the actors are like, this isn't working for me. And then the on-set writer will go and change it again.
Yeah.
So as important as dialogue is when you're writing screenplays and stuff, it's almost the least important thing. It's still important.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not unimportant. But he was like, don't write the dialogue. Write the story without dialogue. Once you have the story written, go back in and add a dialogue. And it was honestly one of the coolest exercises I've ever done. I'm not sure I could do a whole book like that, because that would be a little insane. But you could almost plot out a book like that and then go back in and write it and stuff. But you are 100% right. Write it all down and then rewrite it, because I think a lot of authors get too attached to their words. Like, oh my God, I wrote this word and it's so pretty and it's so perfect. And get rid of it. Get rid of it. Do it again. Just rewrite, like delete, the purpose of the scene, erase it, rewrite it, and see how much better it'll be the second and third time. Where can we find you? This is where you get to talk about your socials, your upcoming books again, where we can buy you, where we can stalk you. I mean, find you on Facebook and social media.
The easiest place to start is my website. It's just AnnShepherd.com, real easy. And you can see Shepherd is spelled very weird, SHEPPHIRD. We had a bad spelling ancestor and we all have that name. So it's easy to find me, AnnShepherd.com. And then for Instagram, which is where I post the most often, it's just A Shepherd at Instagram, and on Facebook it's author Ann Shepherd. So yeah.
And then you said, remind us again, because you said you have a book coming out in February of 2026.
Yes, so February is Destination New York City. So
now for the Destination murder mystery, travel murder mysteries, mystery. Are they serial, or can you pick up any book and read it?
They are serial, but you can pick up any book and read them. So I always do, I throw in the backstory, a little bit along the way there. What I try to do with my beta readers is I try to find someone who hasn't read the others to read one that's coming up, like the latest one, and let me know if there's anything that they feel they missed by not having read the other ones.
See, you are far nicer than me. I write very serial, and any recap is minimal. So
I try not to make, because you don't want to go and blah 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 blah, but just throwing in here and there so that we know who it is, and little things people can catch up. I personally, with mystery series, like to start from the beginning, which all my, Sue Grafton, I loved her books and had to start with and so personally, but you could pick it up and you're not gonna get that lost. So.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. I've had so much fun chatting with you.
Oh, good. Thank you. This was very fun. Yes.
And I think we'll have to, have you back on again at some point, and not talk about alcohol for
yes, exactly.
10 minutes. Don't be wrong. I love talking about anything.
It's only because you asked. Well, you told me to bring a drink, and I did. Yeah. So, and then I told you how it related to the books, and then suddenly that morphed into.
No.
But
I hope
I've only had a sip.
Oh no, that's okay. I had my tea, and now you saw my wife walk in all blurry, handing me my evening latte, because
nice latte.
I have
a latte at night.
Oh, actually, this is an Americano. I have to. I will drink coffee. I'll drink about 24 ounces of coffee when I wake up. At about 6 o'clock or so, I will drink an Americano or a latte, which is a 2-shot. And then if I feel a headache coming on, I'll have about another 8 ounces of coffee and then go to sleep.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
If I have anything after like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Bing.
Oh no, I don't sleep well anyway, so it is the caffeine will actually help me sleep, which is
interesting.
Horrible to have, because I've never been diagnosed formally. It is a telltale sign of like adult ADHD or whatever, and I'm just like, you know what, this works. I don't need Ritalin.
That works
I
for
need
you.
this.
That works.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But no, I do have to go. We have to wrap it up. So I want to thank you again. I want to thank everyone for watching. And until next time, Stay schwasty.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.